In retrospect, it's pretty amazing that Barack Obama got as far as he did. Had sex with Barack Obama, used cocaine with him.
Tucker Carlson was left stunned as his guest dropped a bombshell that exposed Obama's dirty little secret.
Michelle Obama goes to Princeton for free and has been in the ruling class her whole life. And she's still lecturing you about how she's a victim of racism. Hillary Clinton, exact same thing. Goes to Wellesley, spends her entire life.
For years, Barack Obama has been preaching about racial justice and inequality. But what if I told you that his lavish lifestyle and millions in wealth tell a completely different story? From $400,000 speaking fees to multi-million-dollar homes in Martha's Vineyard, Obama's actions seem to directly contradict everything he claims to stand for. So, what's going on behind the scenes? Is the Obama legacy just a well-crafted illusion, or is there a darker side to the story that we're not being told?
We will go out and remake America, and then we will change the world.
When Barack Obama rose to prominence, his campaign carried a message that resonated deeply with millions of Americans: racial unity, healing, and hope. His historic 2008 presidential bid wasn't just about political policies. It was about breaking barriers and addressing the long-standing racial divisions in America. He symbolized progress, an era where racial harmony could be within reach. To many, Obama was the embodiment of hope for a fairer, more inclusive future. But here lies the contradiction. After leaving office, the Obamas embraced a lifestyle that starkly contradicts the very messages they once championed. They spent years advocating for the marginalized, speaking against economic inequality and systemic racism. Yet today, they live in some of the most exclusive, wealthiest communities in America. Their post-presidency life is not that of average Americans, but of the elite few who reside in multi-million-dollar mansions, far removed from the struggles of everyday citizens.
You to believe, not in my ability to bring about change, but in yours. Yes, we can. Yes, we did.
The contrast is glaring. During his presidency, Obama spoke extensively about privilege, economic disparity, and racial injustice. He urged Americans to acknowledge systemic inequalities and to fight for social justice. However, after leaving the White House, he and his family settled into a life that seemed to contradict the ideals they once espoused. Their primary residences include a luxurious $12 million estate in Martha's Vineyard, one of the wealthiest and least diverse areas in the country, and another lavish home in Hawaii, known for its exclusivity. These are not modest homes, but sprawling, expensive estates that only the ultra-rich can afford. This raises an important question. How can someone who consistently spoke about racial and economic struggles justify living in such extravagant luxury? It's a hard pill to swallow for those who once believed in his message of unity and fairness. If Obama was sincere in his rhetoric about oppression and social justice, why does his lifestyle not reflect the values he preached? How does one reconcile advocating for economic equity while enjoying the privileges of extreme wealth? The Obama's post-presidency choices highlight a broader issue, what some perceive as the commercialization of social justice. Over the years, they have capitalized on their political influence and advocacy for change, turning their brand into a highly profitable enterprise. Between multi-million-dollar book deals, lucrative speaking engagements, and partnerships with major media companies, their financial success is undeniable. The very system they once criticized has enabled them to amass extraordinary wealth
in our country. And then you go to Martha's Vineyard, the whitest zip code in the world? Not allowed.
Of course, there is nothing inherently wrong with financial success. Many presidents and public figures capitalize on their time in office, securing lucrative deals and enjoying the benefits of their influence. However, when a public figure builds their legacy on fighting for the underprivileged while simultaneously indulging in extreme privilege, it naturally raises concerns about hypocrisy. The Obamas positioned themselves as champions of the oppressed, yet their current lifestyle reflects the kind of wealth and exclusivity that is out of reach for most Americans.
Now that he's a Netflix producer, along with his hate-addled wife, Michelle, he's producing more racial division.
Consider the optics. One of their most prominent properties, Their Martha's Vineyard estate sits on a massive 29-acre property, offering breathtaking views, private beaches, and a level of seclusion that only the wealthiest can afford. This is a stark contrast to the communities of struggling Americans who continue to deal with the realities of economic hardship, racial inequality, and lack of opportunity. The fact that this estate is located in one of the whitest zip codes in the country further complicates the narrative. It raises the question, was the message of racial and economic justice merely a tool for political influence, or was it a genuine commitment to change? Even beyond their homes, their lifestyle reflects the kind of elite status that is worlds apart from the people they claim to represent. The former president frequently travels by private jet, a stark contrast to his previous calls for climate action and reducing carbon footprints. His lucrative Netflix deal and speaking engagements, which can command hundreds of thousands of dollars per appearance, further illustrate how the Obamas have benefited from the very system they once critiqued. To be clear, success is not the issue. Achieving financial stability and enjoying the rewards of hard work is a fundamental part of the American dream. But when a public figure consistently frames themselves as an advocate for the oppressed, yet indulges in an elite lifestyle that is disconnected from the struggles of everyday people, it leads to skepticism. It makes people question the authenticity of their words. Obama was not just a president. He was a symbol of hope, change, and a better future. His words inspired a generation to believe in progress and unity. However, his post-presidency lifestyle suggests that for some, these ideals are easier to preach than to practice.
Obama, I was reading something where it said he was actually left an inheritance by his stepfather, right?
Wait a minute. Stepdaddy was one of the 10 or 12 richest men on the planet Earth when he died.
The Obamas' wealth accumulation and elite status don't automatically invalidate the positive contributions they made during their time in office. However, they do create a contradiction that is difficult to ignore. If they are truly committed to addressing systemic inequality and uplifting marginalized communities, should they not be more reflective of the values they promote? Should they not use their wealth and influence to create tangible, meaningful change instead of simply profiting from their message?
I mean, I looked and it looks like her net worth is about $70 million. Gayle King's is $40 million. Barack Obama and her combined is $135 million. Let me tell you something. If that's oppression, where can I get me some?
Barack Obama's financial transformation since leaving the White House is nothing short of remarkable. When he first took office in 2008, his net worth was estimated at around $1.3 million. Today, that figure has ballooned to. There's a much deeper story behind Obama's financial rise that most people are unaware of. Recently, during an appearance on Tucker Carlson's show, a guest provided insight into what might really be fueling Obama's wealth. The discussion challenged the commonly accepted narrative that his financial success is solely a result of his public career. Yes, the former president secured a massive $65 million book deal. According to Carlson's guest, Obama's true financial ascent stems from a well-orchestrated system that extends far beyond the public eye, a system that rewards influence, connections, and behind-the-scenes dealings.
Has reportedly shattered records for memoir deals set by preceding presidents. The Financial Times, citing sources familiar with the auction, reporting that the Obamas have signed with publishing giant Penguin Random House for a whopping $65 million.
Away from public office with the ability to tap into an elite financial ecosystem. This ecosystem includes corporate partnerships, investments, consulting gigs, and strategic advisory roles that pay millions of dollars. In essence, his influence didn't disappear when he left office. It became a highly valuable commodity.
It's fraudulent.
It's disgusting.
Yes, and it's a lie. Your whole thing is based on a lie.
Disgusting.
It's Sam Bankman-Fried.
Of course.
Right?
One of the most significant elements of Obama's post-presidency wealth comes from his ability to secure deals. It's a well-established practice among former politicians, where the real value lies in the relationships cultivated behind the scenes, rather than just the words spoken on stage.
And the reason some people think, well, I don't know, I remember that economy when he first came in being pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good, because it was my economy.
Moreover, Obama's influence extends into philanthropy and nonprofit work, further widening the gap between the ruling class and ordinary citizens. The blurred lines between public service and personal enrichment continue to fuel debates about corruption, accountability, and the role of money in politics. Obama's financial rise is a testament to the realities of modern political influence. Whether one sees it as an inspiring success story or a troubling example of systemic privilege depends largely on perspective. However, one thing is certain: the pathway to immense wealth after leaving public office is well paved, and Barack Obama has navigated it masterfully. In today's world, identity politics has evolved into something much larger than a social movement. It has become an incredibly lucrative industry. While many view it as a tool for advocacy and change, for some of the most prominent political figures, it is transformed into a multi-million-dollar business. Whether it's Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, the Clintons, or even the Bidens, these high-profile individuals have turned narratives of oppression and inequality into a profitable enterprise, all while positioning themselves as champions of the very causes they claim to fight for.
Fight amongst yourselves.
Yep. That's right.
I think it was the hangover from the financial crisis.
Yeah, well, that was a huge part of it, for sure. And also that Obama's, in the year,
Barack Obama, for instance, commands a staggering $400,000 per speaking engagement. His wife, Michelle Obama, takes in even more, reportedly earning up to $700,000 for a single appearance. Meanwhile, the Clintons have amassed an astonishing $230 million from speaking fees alone. These figures beg an important question. Is this about sharing wisdom and inspiring others, or is it about selling influence? When individuals in positions of power are earning vast sums of money just to deliver a speech, it becomes clear that the real commodity being sold is not knowledge. It's power, access, and control over political discourse.
Michelle Obama, give some of that oppression to the rest of America, because we sure could use it.
Haven't touched their door handles in here, so I'm stealing that. Why? I notice it.
Michelle Obama has similarly leveraged her brand as a former First Lady, an advocate for social causes, into a highly profitable empire. Her memoir, Becoming, sold millions of copies worldwide, earning her an estimated $65 million advance. Beyond book sales, her public appearances generate massive revenue, reinforcing the idea that being a political influencer and thought leader can be as financially rewarding as any corporate endeavor. Despite her advocacy for equity and inclusion, the reality is that her financial success places her among the very elite she critiques.
Thing where he's like, I'd really like you to investigate the Bidens. Maybe you don't get these weapons if you don't investigate the Bidens.
Then there are the Bidens. Joe Biden himself has long been a fixture in American politics, and his family's financial dealings have raised ethical questions about the intersection of public service and personal gain. Hunter Biden's business ventures, which have reportedly yielded millions from foreign entities, further illustrate how political connections can be leveraged for economic benefit. While Joe Biden frequently speaks about fighting for the middle class and addressing economic inequality, his family's financial gains suggest that proximity to power remains one of the most effective ways to generate wealth in modern politics. Furthermore, the financial incentives attached to identity politics create a perverse feedback loop. The more these figures emphasize systemic oppression, the more they are invited to speak on the topic, write books about it, and receive lucrative deals from media organizations. This cycle does not necessarily lead to meaningful change, but instead perpetuates a narrative that ensures their continued relevance and financial gain. If genuine progress were made in addressing issues like racial inequality and economic disparity, their lucrative platforms might no longer be as necessary or profitable.
Colludes with Nancy Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer. Sunday morning calls Biden and says, "You're done. Kamala's gonna 25th Amendment you."
Media networks, publishing houses, and corporate sponsors play a crucial role in sustaining this industry. These entities recognize the profitability of promoting figures who can articulate social grievances in a way that resonates with large audiences. These are critical conversations that deserve attention and action. However, the issue arises when these conversations are driven more by financial incentives than by a genuine desire for change. When activism becomes an industry, the lines between advocacy and opportunism blur, leaving the public to question the true motivations of those at the forefront of these movements. Ultimately, the commercialization of identity politics reflects a broader issue within modern political discourse: the prioritization of personal gain over genuine progress. When political figures build their wealth on the very struggles they claim to address, it becomes evident that their activism is not entirely selfless. While they may champion noble causes, the immense financial rewards tied to their advocacy suggest that, for many, identity politics is less about uplifting the marginalized and more about securing a seat at the table of power and influence. The question remains: how much of what we see is genuine activism, and how much is simply business as usual?
I think we have to launch an investigation because I want to know which nanny, which chef, which housekeeper, which chauffeur, which Secret Service agent, which gardener, which landscaper is oppressing Michelle Obama, Barack.
In today's world, identity politics has evolved into something much larger than a social movement. It has become an incredibly lucrative industry. While many view it as a tool for advocacy and change for some of the most prominent political figures, it has transformed into a multi-million-dollar business. Whether it's Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, the Clintons, or even the Bidens, these high-profile individuals have turned narratives of oppression and inequality into a profitable enterprise, all while positioning themselves as champions of the very causes they claim to fight for.
Secret Service agents that are constantly around your children. They probably haven't even touched their own door handles in years, and we're supposed to believe that you're oppressed while the rest of the country is actually suffering. Please, Michelle Obama, give some of that oppression to the rest of America, because we sure could use it.
Haven't touched their door handles in years.
A guest on Tucker Carlson's show articulated this dynamic perfectly, noting that these exorbitant speaking fees are not reflective of the intrinsic value of the speeches themselves. Instead, they serve as a means to shape public narratives, control political discourse, and manipulate public opinion in ways that benefit the ruling elite. These high-profile individuals are not merely being compensated for their words. They are being paid to reinforce specific ideologies, push particular messages, and sustain an agenda that perpetuates the power structures from which they benefit. One of the most striking aspects of this phenomenon is how victimhood and oppression have been commodified. The political and cultural elite often speak at length about systemic injustices, racial disparities, and economic inequalities, yet they simultaneously capitalize on these very issues to build their wealth and influence. For example, Barack Obama, who ran on a platform of hope and change, has since built a net worth of over $70 million, largely through book deals, media ventures, and speaking engagements that cater to an audience eager to hear about social justice, yet unwilling to acknowledge the financial incentives at play. It's hard to ignore the stark contrast between the way the Obamas portray themselves and the lifestyle they lead. Michelle Obama often speaks about the fear she feels for her daughters in a country she claims is still plagued by racial oppression. But here's the contradiction. How does that message align with the $12 million mansion she calls home, or the fact that the Obamas spend their summers in Martha's Vineyard, one of the wealthiest, whitest places in America?
Senile run, and now you're saying it was a coup when they removed him. You're like, yeah, both are true. I don't know what to tell you. The guy is clearly senile, and also he is still the president of the United States of America, and there's a process here.
They will they'll say, and it's just, the one thing I can't get over is not that people disagree with me. I assume people are always going to disagree with me. I'm often wrong, so it's like, it's okay.
While Michelle and Barack Obama continue to speak about the struggles of ordinary Americans and the oppression that still exists in the country, they live in an entirely different reality. They reside in exclusive estates, surrounded by immense wealth, in neighborhoods where few can afford to set foot. Their lifestyle, filled with private islands and luxurious mansions, doesn't exactly align with the image of a struggling family or victims of racial injustice. It's the complete opposite of the narrative they have presented to the public for years. The Clintons exemplify this dynamic in an even more pronounced way. Their influence extends beyond rhetoric, as their engagements often coincide with political favors, networking opportunities, and strategic alliances that serve their long-term interests.
To the racial tensions internally in America especially, he did every single thing he could to stoke these divisions and to stoke these conflicts further. The American people were desperate. They believed that they were voting for Obama for something bigger, and Obama had a gleeful cry for hope and change, in which failed to materialize due to his own.
At its core, the monetization of identity politics raises the significant concerns about authenticity and accountability. If political leaders are truly committed to social justice and equity, this cycle does not necessarily lead to meaningful change, but instead perpetuates a narrative that ensures their continued relevance and financial gain. If genuine progress were made in addressing issues like racial inequality and economic disparity, their lucrative platforms might no longer be as necessary or profitable. Media networks, publishing houses, and corporate sponsors play a crucial role in sustaining this industry. These entities recognize the profitability of promoting figures who can articulate social grievances in a way that resonates with large audiences. High-profile politicians and activists are not just speakers or authors. They are brands. This is not to say that discussions about inequality and social justice are unimportant. On the contrary, these are critical conversations that deserve attention and action. However, the issue arises when these conversations are driven more by financial incentives than by a genuine desire for change. When activism becomes an industry, the lines between advocacy and opportunism blur, leaving the public to question the true motivations of those at the forefront of these movements.
The psychodrama between him and Obama is real. I don't think it is between him and Kamala Harris, but between him and Obama, it's real.
I remember Hunter Biden, who was my neighbor for many years, telling me more than once, when Biden was vice president, how much they despised Barack Obama. He despised Barack Obama.
Ultimately, the commercialization of identity politics reflects a broader issue within modern political discourse. The prioritization of personal gain over genuine progress. When political figures build their wealth on the very struggles they claim to address, it becomes evident that their activism is not entirely selfless. While they may champion noble causes, the immense financial rewards tied to their advocacy suggest that, for many, identity politics is less about uplifting the marginalized and more about securing a seat at the table of power and influence. The question remains, how much of what we see is genuine activism, and how much is simply business as usual? So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.